The mysterious arrival. Captain Cole Harper stood at the helm of his starship, the Valiant Horizon, his hands resting on the polished, metallic surface of the control panel. The sleek, deep navy blue uniform he wore complemented the professional, calm demeanor he'd perfected over the years. His dark hair, cut short and neat, framed his rugged face, while a faint shadow of stubble added a touch of rawness to his otherwise composed appearance. As the ship cruised through the vast expanse of space, Cole's sharp, dark eyes were focused on the holographic map that flickered in front of him, detailing the coordinates for their final destination. The Coral Station. Final approach to Coral Station, ETA 10 minutes, announced the ship's AI, its voice smooth yet monotone. The voice, known as AURA, was an integral part of the ship, assisting Cole on every mission. But tonight, Aura's voice felt more like an echo, as Cole couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Coral Station, situated in the heart of the Alcyon galaxy, was famous for its elite and mysterious residents. It was a station that combined the ancient with the futuristic. Its towering structures were made from minerals older than the galaxy itself, while its advanced technology hummed beneath the surface. This was a place where high-profile intergalactic deals were made, and where powerful beings from every corner of the universe gathered. As Cole glanced out the viewport, he could see the station looming ahead. The massive structure resembled a giant, shimmering city floating in space, its gravity-defying architecture twisted and turned in ways that defied conventional logic. Various spacecrafts moved in and out of the docking bays, each one as unique as the passengers they carried. The atmosphere was electric, the air filled with the hum of energy and purpose. He turned his gaze to the single occupant aboard the Valiant Horizon, Lady Ilara, the alien diplomat he had been tasked with escorting. Lady Ilara was no ordinary passenger. Her background was shrouded in mystery, and the political tensions surrounding her arrival on Coral Station were palpable. As a representative of the Zinthari Empire, her role at the Intergalactic Summit was crucial. Her species was known for their advanced intellect and ethereal beauty, but also for their ruthlessness and diplomacy. Despite her reputation, Cole couldn't help but feel an undeniable intrigue whenever he encountered her. Lady Ilara sat with her legs crossed, leaning against one of the plush, luxurious seats of the ship's passenger area. Her violet skin, which shimmered like the surface of a distant nebula, contrasted sharply against the soft golden glow of the ship's interior. Her long silver hair cascaded down her back like liquid mercury, glimmering as it caught the ship's lights. Despite her regal appearance, her posture was relaxed, as if she were completely at ease in a way most diplomats or politicians could never be. Her golden eyes flicked to Cole briefly before she returned her attention to the holographic interface she had been studying. The air around her seemed to hum with an almost palpable energy, as though she were a being from another realm entirely. Her elegance was undeniable, but there was an unsettling coldness in her gaze that suggested a far more calculating mind lay beneath her serene exterior. Cole shook off the strange feeling that had settled in his chest. His job was simple: get her to Coral Station, no questions asked. Yet something about this mission felt different. The usual political banter and subtle negotiations of high-profile clients didn't exist here. Instead, Cole could feel the weight of something much more significant hanging in the air. He didn't know what, but it was like a storm was brewing just on the edge of his perception. "Lady Ilara," Cole spoke, his voice steady, "we're approaching the station. I'll be escorting you to the VIP landing bay once we dock." She glanced at him briefly, her expression unreadable. "I don't need an escort, human. Just keep the ship in one piece, and I'll handle the rest." Her voice was like silk, smooth and captivating, but with an edge that left no room for argument. Cole nodded politely, though he knew she wouldn't accept any assistance. He'd worked with enough high-ranking individuals to know how these things went, but there was something about her arrogance that intrigued him even more. She wasn't like other diplomats. There was a quiet power in her demeanor that suggested she had seen things, experienced things that Cole couldn't even begin to understand. The ship descended into the docking bay, and the moment the landing gear touched down, the lights of the station flickered briefly, as if welcoming them. The ship's entry ramp extended with a quiet hiss, and Cole moved swiftly to open the door, preparing to meet the security officers waiting to escort Lady Ilara to the summit. Before he could even make it to the ramp, a sudden burst of energy filled the air, a crackling tension that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up as his senses screamed at him to stay alert. As if on cue, Lady Ilara stood up gracefully and turned to face him. "You seem anxious, Captain," she said, her golden eyes narrowing as though she could read him like a book. Cole didn't flinch. "Just being cautious," he replied, his eyes scanning the shadows just outside the ship. Lady Ilara gave a small, amused smile. "You should be. There are forces at play here that you cannot even begin to comprehend." Cole didn't have time to process her words before a loud, crackling sound echoed through the docking bay. The energy in the air intensified as a group of armed figures appeared from the shadows, moving with precision and intent. Their weapons were drawn, and their faces hidden behind visors. The air seemed to shimmer with electricity as they moved closer. Lady Ilara's expression changed instantly. No longer the calm diplomat, she shifted into something far more dangerous, someone who had lived through countless battles and survived them all. She straightened her back, and the soft hum of energy that had surrounded her intensified, her silver hair now crackling with an almost electric charge. "Captain," she said, her voice now cold and commanding, "get ready." Before Cole could react, a flurry of shots rang out, and the docking bay erupted into chaos. The valiant Horizon was under attack. Lady Ilara grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the nearest cover. As the explosion rocked the ship, Cole's instincts kicked in, and he pulled her to safety behind a nearby pillar, just as plasma shots seared through the space they'd been standing in. "You think I'm worthless now, human?" she asked, her voice laced with a hint of sarcasm, but there was no mistaking the panic in her eyes. Cole didn't respond. Instead, he kept his gaze on the attackers, already sizing up their strategy. "Not the time for that," he muttered, scanning for a way out. In the midst of the chaos, Cole realized just how serious the situation had become. The enemy was no ordinary band of criminals. These were well-trained, coordinated forces, and they had come for Lady Ilara. He could see it in their eyes. They weren't after the station. They were after her. As the attack continued, the tension in the air grew thicker. This was only the beginning of a much larger conflict, one that would take both human and alien strength to survive. The story had just begun, and it was far from over. Shadows of the past. The scene was chaos. The docking bay, once a sophisticated and serene spaceport, had transformed into a war zone in the blink of an eye. Plasma bolts streaked across the air, sizzling through the atmosphere like 1,000 falling stars. Sparks flew from shattered lights as the security systems on Coral Station malfunctioned. The once gleaming, polished surfaces were now streaked with the blackened marks of combat. Captain Cole Harper crouched behind a reinforced pillar, his hand still gripping Lady Ilara's arm, pulling her further into the shadows. His sharp eyes scanned the surroundings, calculating every move, every escape route. The attackers had begun closing in, their tactical movements methodical and precise. There was no doubt about it now. This wasn't a random ambush. They were after Lady Ilara, and they knew exactly what they were doing. Cole's pulse quickened, not from fear, but from the raw, instinctual awareness that this was the moment he had trained for. He was a soldier first, a captain second, and right now he had a mission to complete: protect the diplomat and survive the onslaught. He glanced down at Lady Ilara, who was still calm, her posture unwavering despite the violence unfolding around them. She didn't flinch, didn't even seem startled by the explosions and gunfire. In fact, she appeared almost serene. There was a coldness in her golden eyes, a calculated detachment that spoke volumes about her nature. This wasn't the first time she had been in danger. Cole knew that much. "Stay behind me," he ordered, his voice low but firm. Lady Ilara gave him a look, one that seemed to weigh him with the precision of 1,000 years of experience. She said nothing, only nodded ever so slightly, but her expression shifted to something darker. She was thinking, calculating. Something was happening, something that Cole couldn't quite understand, but the mystery only deepened as she pulled a small, intricate device from her cloak. Cole's eyes widened slightly. "What is that?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she pressed a button on the device, and a faint hum filled the air. At first, Cole thought it was just a simple piece of tech, perhaps a communication device or a weapon. But the way her fingers moved over it, the deliberate care, told him it was something far more important. "You're about to get a lesson in how not to underestimate me, Captain Harper," she said, her voice now a cool, almost predatory whisper. Before Cole could react, the ground beneath them began to vibrate. The device in her hand pulsed with a sudden, intense energy, sending a shockwave through the air. The attackers, closing in from all sides, hesitated for just a moment as the hum grew louder. It was as if the space around them had become alive. Every surface seemed to shimmer, every shadow seemed to bend and twist with unseen forces. Without warning, a blinding flash of light erupted from the device, casting everything in its vicinity in pure white light. Cole's instincts kicked in, and he pulled Lady Ilara closer, shielding her as best as he could from the sudden burst. The light was so intense that it felt as though time itself had stopped. For a moment, there was nothing but silence, and then the world returned with a deafening crash. The attackers, once poised and coordinated, were now scrambling in disarray. Their weapons malfunctioned. Some dropped their blasters altogether, unsure of what had just happened. Others staggered, trying to adjust to the overwhelming wave of disorientation that had swept through the area. Lady Ilara stood up, her expression still unfazed. "That, Captain, was a basic disruption wave, a signature of my people. It disorients electronic systems within a certain radius, including weaponry. But don't get comfortable. This isn't over yet." Cole stood quickly, scanning the area, but the attackers were regrouping. He saw several figures retreating into the shadows, likely to regroup and reassess. But he knew they wouldn't be gone for long. This was just a temporary setback. He had to act fast. "We need to move, now," Cole said, his voice urgent. Lady Ilara nodded, though her face remained unreadable. She tucked the device back into her cloak with a swift motion. "Follow my lead, human." With precision, she moved toward the edge of the docking bay, where a dark corridor led deeper into the station. Cole followed closely, his eyes still scanning the area for any sign of their pursuers. He wasn't sure if Lady Ilara had a plan, or if she was just trying to get them both out of immediate danger, but either way, it was clear that she had far more resources at her disposal than he'd first thought. As they rounded a corner, the low hum of the station's engines vibrated beneath their feet. The artificial gravity was stable, the temperature controlled, but the atmosphere felt off, tense, charged with something unspoken. The corridor they moved through was pristine and silent, an eerie contrast to the chaos they had just left behind. Cole couldn't help but notice the strange, alien murals adorning the walls. Depictions of star systems, alien creatures, and symbols that he couldn't begin to decipher. "Where are we going?" Cole asked as they turned another corner, his boots clicking against the polished floor. Lady Ilara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she glanced over her shoulder at him, a flicker of something unreadable passing through her gaze. "I told you, Captain," she said finally, her voice tinged with an edge of amusement. "You're in the middle of something far bigger than you know. The people after me are part of something ancient, something beyond your comprehension. They are part of the Red Dawn Coalition, an underground faction that has infiltrated nearly every galactic institution. They want my knowledge. They want my people. Cole stopped in his tracks. His mind raced, trying to digest what she had just revealed. The Red Dawn Coalition, a faction so deeply embedded in the fabric of galactic society that it had remained hidden until now. Wait, he said, a new sense of urgency rising within him. You're telling me this attack isn't random, that they've been planning this for a while. Lady Ilara turned back to face him, her golden eyes glinting with cold certainty. Precisely. And now that they've made their move, they won't stop until they have what they want. We can't hide here for long. But don't worry, Captain. I know exactly where we need to go. Her words sent a chill down Cole's spine, and for the first time, he truly understood the magnitude of what was at stake. This wasn't just about a diplomatic mission. It wasn't just about getting her to the summit. This was a war that had been brewing beneath the surface of the galaxy for centuries. Cole's grip on his blaster tightened. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined. But one thing was certain. He wasn't going to let Lady Ilara fall into the hands of these faceless enemies, not without a fight. And as the two of them pressed deeper into the heart of Coral Station, they knew that every step they took brought them closer to unraveling a mystery far bigger than either of them had ever anticipated. The unseen enemy. The sound of their footsteps echoed eerily through the hollow corridor. The vast metallic walls of Coral Station seemed to close in around Captain Cole Harper and Lady Ilara as they hurried through the darkened hallways. Their breath was steady, but beneath the calm exterior, Cole's mind raced, grappling with the gravity of the situation. The Red Dawn Coalition, a shadowy organization, its existence rumored in hushed tones across the galaxy, but its true motives and reach had remained an enigma until now. The attack on the station wasn't just an assault on a diplomat. It was an all-out strike. They weren't here to capture Lady Ilara. They were here to destroy her, to capture or eliminate the knowledge she possessed. The thought lingered in Cole's mind as they moved further into the station's underbelly, away from the chaos above. Lady Ilara's pace was deliberate, the soft clicking of her boots on the cold floor the only sound in the otherwise silent hall. There was something unnerving about her calm demeanor. She wasn't acting like a woman on the run from a deadly faction. Her gaze was sharp, calculating, as if she was already a few steps ahead of Cole in this deadly game. "Where are we going?" Cole asked again, trying to keep his voice steady, though his mind was anything but. Lady Ilara stopped and turned to him, her golden eyes gleaming with an almost predatory light. She looked different from the confident diplomat he had initially met on the Valiant Horizon. She had shed her previous calm and elegant exterior, and now seemed more like a hunted predator, but one that had no intention of being cornered. Her voice was low, smooth, and edged with cold determination. "We need to reach the inner sanctum. It's a safe place, though I use that term loosely." Cole raised an eyebrow. The inner sanctum. I thought that was just a myth, a relic of old diplomatic rumors. Lady Ilara smirked, though it wasn't the playful, amused smile he had grown used to. This one was tight, almost as if she were hiding something. "My people keep secrets, Captain." The inner sanctum was created long before Coral Station became a hub for intergalactic diplomacy. It is a place where certain individuals, including my ancestors, could find refuge in safety. But we don't have much time. She turned quickly, moving toward a reinforced door at the far end of the hall. The door was large, its surface covered in strange symbols that Cole couldn't understand. They looked like a blend of alien script and archaic geometry, patterns that seemed to shift when he looked at them for too long. Without hesitation, Lady Ilara placed her hand on a hidden sensor beside the door, and it hissed open, revealing a dimly lit room beyond. The air in the room smelled ancient, like dust and old technology. Inside, the room was sparse. A few chairs, a table, and walls lined with strange, glowing artifacts and devices. But what caught Cole's eye was the large holographic map of the galaxy that floated in the center of the room. It was intricate, detailed, and displayed regions Cole had never seen before, including a set of coordinates that seemed to pulse with an eerie, almost predatory rhythm. "What is all this?" Cole asked, stepping closer to the map. Lady Ilara walked to a nearby console, and with a series of quick gestures, she activated a series of holographic panels. "This," she said, pointing at the map, "is where the Red Dawn Coalition has made its move. They're systematically infiltrating every level of galactic society, from the highest councils to the smallest trade routes. But the most disturbing part of their plan is what they're after, something I know they cannot control." Her voice had dropped to a whisper, her eyes narrowing. "My family holds a key, an ancient key to a force so powerful, so vast, it could shift the balance of power in this galaxy forever. The Zinthuri people were once the custodians of this power, but we've kept it hidden for generations. Now the Red Dawn Coalition is coming for it, and they're willing to destroy anyone in their path to get it." Cole felt a chill run down his spine. The weight of her words settled over him like a suffocating fog. For the first time in his career, he was no longer simply a soldier following orders. He was now a player in a game much larger than he had ever imagined, and the stakes had never been higher. The fate of countless lives, of entire worlds, now rested in his hands. "And you think the inner sanctum will keep us safe?" Cole asked, turning his gaze from the map to Lady Ilara. Lady Ilara's expression was unreadable as she stepped closer to the holographic map. "For now, the Red Dawn Coalition may have infiltrated Coral Station, but they don't know everything. The sanctum is hidden in layers of encryption, both digital and psychic. Only those with the right access can open it, and only those with the right knowledge can navigate its corridors. You'll understand when we get there." As she spoke, a sudden beep interrupted her, and the map flickered. A red warning symbol flashed across the screen. Cole's heart skipped a beat. "They found us," Lady Ilara muttered under her breath, her calm demeanor slipping for just a moment. "It's time to move, Captain." Without wasting another second, she pressed a series of buttons on the console, and the room's lighting dimmed further. The walls shifted, revealing the hidden passage that wound its way down into the depths of Coral Station. Cole followed closely behind, his mind still reeling from the magnitude of what he had just learned. Ancient powers, hidden forces, intergalactic factions at war. It was enough to make his head spin. But there was no time for doubts. There was only the mission now: protect Lady Ilara and survive. As they moved through the narrow passage, Cole could feel the station's heartbeat shift beneath his feet. The walls vibrated softly with the presence of some ancient, unseen force. It was as if the very station was alive, pulsing with power, old power that had been dormant for far too long. At the end of the passage, they reached a reinforced door that appeared to be of a different design than the others. This one was etched with symbols that almost seemed to glow, a shimmering, ethereal light radiating from within. Lady Ilara approached the door with a practiced ease, her fingers moving over the panel in a fluid rhythmic sequence. The door opened with a soft hiss, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. Inside, the air was thick with an electric energy, and at the center of the room, a pedestal stood, surrounded by ancient glyphs and faintly glowing stones. Lady Ilara stepped forward, her fingers brushing the surface of the pedestal. As she did, the symbols on the walls flared to life, casting an eerie glow that filled the room. "This is it," she said, her voice almost reverent. "The heart of the inner sanctum. The key to unlocking everything they've been looking for. And now, Captain, we are no longer just players in their game. We are the game." Cole's eyes darted around the chamber, his hand instinctively reaching for his blaster. The walls seemed to close in as the ground beneath them trembled. He knew the Red Dawn Coalition was closing in. But this time, they weren't just after Lady Ilara. They were after something far more dangerous. And Cole knew, with a sinking feeling in his stomach, that they were going to stop at nothing to get it.